It started with silence. Not the peaceful kind, not the comfortable kind that two people share when they understand each other without words. This silence felt different, heavy, confusing, and slowly it started to hurt. Aisha stared at her phone for the third time in 5 minutes. No new messages, no missed calls, nothing. Just a blank screen reflecting her own worried face. Maybe he's busy, she whispered to herself. But deep down she knew something had changed, because just a few weeks ago, everything felt perfect. They met on an ordinary evening. Nothing dramatic, no grand moment. Just a simple conversation that somehow felt easy, effortless. Aram wasn't the kind of man who talked too much. He observed more than he spoke. But when he did speak, his words carried weight. Aisha noticed that immediately, and strangely she felt safe around him. Not because he said something extraordinary, but because he didn't pretend. Days turned into weeks. Conversations turned into late-night calls. And slowly, without realizing it, they became important to each other. Not in a loud, dramatic way, but in quiet, meaningful ways. Like remembering small details, like checking in after a long day, like sharing thoughts they never shared with anyone else. And that's how it happens sometimes. Love doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it grows in silence. But then, something shifted. At first, it was small. Aram started replying a little late, then a little shorter, then sometimes not at all. Aisha felt it, that invisible distance. The kind you can't explain, but you can feel in your chest. Did I do something wrong? She asked herself. Her mind replayed every conversation, every message, every word, searching for a mistake. This is where most people get it wrong. Because when someone we love pulls away, we assume it's because of something we did. But psychology tells us something deeper. Sometimes, distance is not about you. It's about what's happening inside them. Aram wasn't losing feelings. In fact, he was feeling too much. That's the part no one talks about. Men don't always distance themselves because they don't care. Sometimes, they distance themselves because they care deeply. Aram sat alone in his room one night, phone in his hand. Aisha's name glowing on the screen. He wanted to reply. He really did. But something stopped him. Not a lack of love, but fear. Fear of responsibility. Fear of expectations. Fear of becoming emotionally dependent. Fear of losing control. Because when a man starts to feel deeply, it changes him. And not every man is ready for that change. Psychology calls this emotional withdrawal. When feelings become intense, some people move closer. Others step back. Aram was the second type. He remembered how things started, how easy everything felt. No pressure, no expectations, just connection. But now, it felt different, more serious, more real, and that scared him. Because real love isn't just about happiness. It's about responsibility, vulnerability, and emotional exposure. And many men are not taught how to handle that. They're taught to be strong, to be independent, to not rely on anyone, to not show too much emotion. So when love enters their life, it creates an internal conflict. Part of them wants to move closer, but another part pulls away. Aisha didn't know any of this. All she saw was distance, and distance feels like rejection. Days passed, and the silence grew louder. Finally, she decided to message him. Not a long message, not emotional, just simple. "Are you okay?" Aram read it instantly, and his heart sank, because he knew he wasn't okay. But he didn't know how to explain it. So he did what many people do when they're overwhelmed. He avoided it. No reply. And that one moment hurt Aisha more than anything else, because silence creates stories in our mind. And those stories are rarely kind. He doesn't care anymore. He's losing interest. I'm not enough. But here's the truth. Silence is often misunderstood. Sometimes it's not a lack of love. It's a lack of emotional clarity. Aram wasn't trying to hurt her. He was trying to understand himself. But in doing so, he was slowly losing her. Aisha started pulling back too, not intentionally, but naturally, because when effort is not returned, energy fades. And this is another psychological truth. Love needs consistency, not perfection, just consistency. Without it, even the strongest feelings begin to weaken. Weeks later, they barely spoke. What once felt warm now felt distant. And yet, neither of them stopped thinking about each other. Because love doesn't disappear instantly. It lingers. Quietly, one evening, Aram finally gathered the courage. He typed a message, deleted it, typed again, paused, because explaining emotions is not easy, especially for someone who never learned how. But this time, he didn't run. "I'm sorry," he wrote. Aisha saw the message. Her heart raced, not because everything was fixed, but because finally there was something. "I didn't know how to handle what I was feeling," he continued. And in that moment, something shifted, because honesty creates understanding, not instant healing, but understanding. They talked that night, not like before, not light, not casual, but real. Aram admitted his fear, his confusion, his need for space. And Aisha admitted her pain, her overthinking, her feeling of being ignored. And this is where real connection begins. Not when everything is perfect, but when both people are honest about their imperfections. Because love is not just about being close. It's about understanding distance too. Aram didn't stop loving her. He just didn't know how to love properly at first. And Aisha didn't lose her worth. She just needed clarity. They didn't fix everything overnight, but they started again, differently, with awareness, with patience, with communication. Because the truth is, men don't always distance themselves because they don't love. Sometimes they distance themselves because they're trying to understand love. And if that distance is handled with honesty, it doesn't have to end the connection. But if it's handled with silence, it slowly destroys it. So if someone you love pulls away, don't immediately assume the worst. Look deeper, because behind distance, there's often fear, confusion, and unspoken emotion. But also remember this: you deserve clarity. You deserve effort. You deserve communication. Understanding someone doesn't mean losing yourself, because love should feel safe, not confusing. And sometimes, the strongest relationships are not the ones without distance, but the ones that learn how to survive it. And maybe that's the real psychology of love. Not just why someone pulls away, but whether they choose to come back, and explain why. Because in the end, love is not just about feelings. It's about emotional responsibility. And the moment someone learns that, everything changes.